Well, thank you again for coming out to watch the movie. We really appreciate it. I know we all appreciate it here, having you screen your film here at our theater. What I wanted to ask first was, for all of you guys, Kayshawn, what made you want to become a filmmaker? And for you guys, what made you guys want to become actors?
For me, I would say, I was always into writing, and so it was just a matter of like what I was gonna do after school that involved writing. I got a degree in history and anthropology, so I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to go to law school, and so after a while, I figured out like I had this passion for movies. You know what I mean? And so after a while, I was just like, all right, like how do you make a screenplay? Like how do movies even get made? So it's just like shifting that, you know what I mean? The whole thing with the Tuskegee Experiment is something that, I studied and I did at my time in college, and I wrote a couple of reports about it. So it's just a matter of like taking what I already know and turning it into a film and adding a couple more ideas into it, so, yeah. Woo!
My name is Wilton. I'm happy that you guys all came out here to support this upcoming short project that we did. The question that he asked, what made me want to become an actor? I've always wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid. I just remember being asked when I was a kid, what do you want to do when you want to grow up? And my answer was always, I want to be an actor. Or there was also something else I wanted to do, but once I decided that they wanted to do more things involving veterinary, I wanted to be a vet, but I noticed that dealing with cats and dogs wasn't the thing that they were going to be doing the whole time. They're going to be dealing with like reptiles and snakes and stuff like that, so I chose acting. And veterinary was something I, put on my back pedestal. But it's just being on stage and being on camera, morphing myself into a different character is always something that I'm very happy about. And I'm just very happy that I'm pursuing the dream that I'm capable of doing, and it's always been a calling for me.
Yeah, and as for me, actually this is my first film.
Really?
Yeah. Man, I always used to like mimic movies since I was like 5, like all the time. So my mama would always tell me like, you need to be in movies. Actually, it wasn't a dream that I actually thought would happen because I come from Louisiana. So nothing don't really just pop unless you just move away. So after I finished college, I moved out here, and I actually got a call from Kayshawn because me just doing modeling and actually doing music videos. You meet people, you talk to people, and I met AK, which was the lady playing Vicky in the movie. And she recommended me to him. Just because I was doing a lot of movement, and that's what happened. And he gave me that call and gave me a shot. And I had the most difficult lines.
We had some audio problems with the wind, which you learn when you do your first short. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, audio is like a whole nother beat, so yeah, I hear you smile. And so, it was rough, that part.
No, I was about to say that was a challenge. I had a week to prepare those lines.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like a professor.
Come on, professor.
But it was actually like a second nature to me because I do poetry and I would always have to remember all kind of lines and stuff for like 5 days. Well, maybe 3 days, and I had to memorize all that. So it was actually not that bad. So I was probably like 80% accurate on the shit. So I'm sorry for cussing. But yes, I enjoyed it.
And also keep in mind, like this was done during like COVID times. So I mean, it was just rough, like having enough PAs, having enough people to do like ripping and gaffing and stuff like that. So So yeah, no, there was a lot of different challenges that came about. So.
But I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, for sure, bro. For sure.
Next question I had for all of you, what was your guys' process for making the movie? Kayshawn specifically, what was your, where did the idea come from and how did you write it? And then how did you guys interpret it as best you could?
So for me, I was actually taking like a screenwriting course at CCSF on the weekends, and just learning how to make things in the screenwriting format. And in terms of this film, I actually lost somebody really close to me who did drugs and stuff like that, and my father. And so when I came up with the idea of like paranoia and stuff like that, I have a sister, and my sister would always tell me, moments before my dad died, like he was looking out the window and doing all this, type of things. And so like I started thinking about that, and then I thought about the Tuskegee Experiment, and and people who don't know the story about that is, a group of doctors came to Tuskegee, Alabama, and we're doing a case study on syphilis, and they were saying that they were trying to figure out, how people are getting syphilis, X, Y, and Z, and cure, and like come up with a cure for them. But it was like this 8-month thing that led on for like 50 years. And this was enabled by somebody within their own community. You know what I mean? So, the way my dad was killed and things like that had to do with, community violence, community beef. You know what I mean? So that's where I came up with the main idea. And so yeah, yeah.
So just being behind set and having this experience, just knowing that this character has dealt with a lot of anxiety, frustration, not having people to trust and things like that, and not having no one like to look behind and you can lean forward on. So basically, I think the thing that me and this character can relate to, because I definitely deal with a lot of anxiety and like stress, and when situations arise and I can't handle it, I tend to run away or steer away from it. And in my lifetime, I've been involved with other people that have led me to like directions where I couldn't get myself out of it. And it's just like, you have to just come into like this level of space where you have to just balance it out and figure out how and what direction you can take. And I think that throughout this process in the film, I was trying to like figure out where I can tap into those abilities, especially like bringing my own characteristics into it as well. So I think, just working with other artists that are doing the same thing and that are motivated the same thing, same thing as well as me. So it's just being involved with those people. It's always it's good to be a part of. Yeah.
Well, like, the way I had to prepare for it, I try to make it as real as it could be. So I was given this little time, but I try to make it real, no matter what. Because when you look at movies, you want to feel the realism, right? You don't want to just be looking at something like that. That wouldn't normally happen. So I try to put him as like one of my best friends from back home, and think of how I would try to like support. I didn't try to be more like a teacher. I try to be a supporter, mentor, something like that. And the chemistry was just on point. I met this guy that day. Didn't know him. I don't even know him, nothing like that. But we kicked it off, and like they could see the chemistry that fast, because I try to like manipulate my mind to think of him as one of my best friends, and what I would do, as opposed to what y'all want to see on screen. So that's how I did.
Thank you guys so much. I'm going to ask a few more questions, and I'm going to open up to questions from the audience. If you guys have any, you can start thinking of them. Next thing I wanted to ask all of you was, what films or just what art in general maybe inspired you all in making this movie?
So for me, I think I mentioned this to you before, there's obviously Jordan Peele's Get Out, like, just this whole Afro horror genre that he kind of created. That really inspired me. As well as there's another movie called It Follows, another horror movie where it's where they had this figure in the movie that was like they couldn't see it, and so that's where I kind of got that whole like psychological, put a figure in there that could be like somebody, it could make it seem like someone's following him and all that stuff. Like It Follows.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was mainly those two films. Like for AK's part, unfortunately she's not here, but for her part, there's this movie called Set It Off, like Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith, and I wanted her to embody like that kind of female character. You know what I mean? Like tough, rugged. So yeah, those are the movies that come to mind when I think of this film.
Great, thank you.
What inspires me the most for me to become an actor, I look at other artists, especially artists that have been involved in the industry for a very long time. I will name one, Denzel Washington. He's one of my top favorite artists that I always look at. I always try to focus on motives and like what his intentions are when he goes through all his scenes and things like that, because I try to mimic it as well, but try to put in my own taste into it and throughout the scene. So I think just having an inspiration to look for and also having these other artists that I'm working with to be inspired by and seeing where they're going, I think that just keeps me going. And like, it inspires me to want to do more and pursue this dream.
Well, I have one more. I have one more. So like Christopher Nolan is like a really huge inspiration to me as well, just because like the non-linear filmmaking. This was obviously non-linear. That whole kind of last part where he's walking at Lake Merritt in Oakland and stuff like that, it's supposed to be in his head. You know what I mean? Like that's not supposed to be real. That's why, the last shot is in the bathtub. Presuming that he OD'd or whatever, you know what I mean? He went through he went through something mentally. And so, yeah, he's also a big inspiration to me because I feel like now, even when I write, it's all non-linear. It's like, I feel like I can't just go, in order, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that does no.
Yeah, I couldn't really think of too many like movies or actors or actresses for this movie that inspired me. But I just use reality and try to bring that into the film. That inspired me. And when I think about actors or somebody that I just like really would like just study, probably like Lawrence Fishburne and Angela Bassett. Those are like my top actors and actresses, and I would just always like look at movies and just try to take something from every actor, not just one or two, but I may have my favorites, but I will always take something from them and just make this conglomerate of characteristics and attributes, and I would just put it all on film or even on stage or anything like that. So that's what made me more inspired to do this on film.
Great, thank you. What I wanted to ask is, what were the biggest challenges, or the singular biggest challenge for you guys in making this?
COVID. Yeah, because we had a reshoot and rain. Like there's so much I learned from making this film. Like you guys don't even understand. Like after watching it, it's crazy because I heard like Martin Scorsese say something about like, if you don't look at your first film and be like, oh man, like you don't see all the fixes you could have made, if you don't get ill, I think he said, then like you did something wrong, you know what I mean? And so it's good to just go out and shoot it and make something, and thankfully I won a couple of awards and stuff like that. So, I think with this film, what carried it was the actual story, you know what I mean? Of LeVon, of what he was going through in that paranoia. If you guys felt on edge and paranoid for him throughout the whole film, then I did my job in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I forgot about your question.
The challenges of the movie.
Yeah. Audio, of course. they had like a huge win factor in the basketball scene. But yeah, everything was very close by. I'm always location scouting. Like I'm location scouting right now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think audio was really big, and you know, cutting and making certain edits and posts and stuff like that. So
Yeah, same thing, audio. The weather situation was kind of rough, but and not having the time to see each other during that time when we had to see each other. But I think the biggest challenge was just reshooting and trying to figure out the time and the dates on when we could shoot perfect time. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say when and all that, but I didn't know nothing about that until after. But as doing the film, it was like pretty much just making sure I know the lines and get probably the content. I didn't really want to know word for word. I just wanted to know the content of it, and then that way I can manipulate it and just make it to make sure that I get the message out. You know, and it was something that taught me something, because I didn't really do the full reading on the Tuskegee Experiment, but when I read up on it, I was like, oh, okay, you educate some people, you know what I'm saying, like that. So I was like, yes, so I just wanted to get the content out of it and make sure that it was, like, I put so much emphasis on realism, because I wanted to make sure that y'all can vibe with it and make sure, like, that it focuses on reality, you know. It's a difference between being an actor and having like realism, you know. So I just wanted to make sure that.
Wonderful, thank you. Now, is there anyone in the audience who has any questions they would like to ask? Yes, you with your hand up right there? Yeah.
For Kayshawn, on the actors, if there's one thing you could change, what would it be about the project, like looking back?
one thing I would change. Different shots, you know, close-ups, medium wide, more wide shots. Like that's the one thing I learned, because I feel like it's like with directing, that's actually like more newer to me. Whereas like writing and drawing it up was cool, and then just being able to coach the actors better. You know what I mean? I definitely felt like I could have did even a better job at that. You know, obviously looking at top directors and you see them coaching actors, you're like, okay, like there's room for improvement for me. But like off rip, I would definitely say just different shot levels. You know what I mean? A lot more close-ups. You know, it's a horror film, psychological thriller. So like in those films, there's a lot of close-ups, and definitely should have had more of that for sure.
Anyone else? Yes, right here.
Mainly for you, what, like moving forward, you know, like would you want to stay in the same genre, or do you know, is this like your preferred genre, or do you want to, you know, expand, you know, your horizons and try other things, or is this not your main genre, it's something you happen to produce?
So I'm moving, that's what he said that, because I'm actually making another short film that's like relationship based. Yeah, but it does have like a psychological aspect to it. So in terms of, I don't know about if I would stick with horror, but like kind of like more like psychological thriller. I think I would stick with, like, you know, the next film I'm making, I want it to be something like a Gone Girl or like Eyes Wide Shut, something like that. You know what I mean? Where it's a relationship film, but there's still like this psychological aspect of it. You know what I mean? So I think I would never leave that. You know, horror is hard though. Like horror is definitely hard. You know, with the jump scares and everything like that. Even like editing, trying to time it right and stuff like that. You learn like that's an art form in itself. That's why like most horror directors, they just do horror. You know what I mean? Like it all makes, this film made me understand so much. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think I'd always think in psychological thriller, but you know, jump around from, you know, maybe a just like a character study film or, you know, relationship based film, stuff like that.
Anyone else? Oh, and way back there?
Oh, somebody.
Oh, but you got one right here. I can ask after brother right here.
Sure, whichever one of you.
One thing that the actor from Louisiana, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. What's your name again?
Rayshawn.
One thing that Rayshawn keeps bringing up is like reality, and I'm curious as to like your process in creating a horror and mixing it with reality. Like, what was the process like in creating a horror film that, you know?
Is that me?
That for
It sounds
Kayshawn,
like you
for
said
Kayshawn,
you
my
too.
bad.
That's mine?
For Kayshawn.
Okay, is that on?
Yeah, it's
Oh, what's good, bro? Mixing or whatever we get. I think dialogue. Like you really gotta be like, you really gotta make your characters just talk and talk like it's like they're like it's real life. You know what I mean? That's why like even like with Joseph and Rayshawn, it was just getting like the concept of who your character was. Like he was talking about. Like you don't have to read my writing like word for word. Like I'm not that type. You know what I mean? So if you get the idea and you could improv a little bit and kind of mix in what you feel is right, then I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that answered my question.
Okay. That's going, by the way. Producing my next film. Y'all want a producer? That's the guy.
I think we had one more in the back.
Yeah, my question really was, as someone who's trained as a historian, right? It was refreshing to see you bring the Tuskegee Experiment into your film because I think some Black history is being forgotten as we move forward as a culture. So I'm just curious, as a writer, how important do you think it is to continue to educate and continue to bring stories to light so that audiences don't forget what we've been through as a people, even though we're making these strides? Like your connection to audience, I'm just curious about as a filmmaker and as a writer, how do you position that relationship as you go through your journey of your career? Because this is the first of many.
Yeah.
Amen? So,
Amen. Nah, like it's crazy you said that because like even when I was, and the teacher that I was working on this film with writing wise, she went to AFI and stuff like that. She was saying that the Tuskegee part was how I wrote it. I could have wrote that part better. So it's really hard to put in the films, like just like because you can't put it in like a class session. You know what I mean? But it's very important. That's all I know. You know what I mean? Like I think this was easy to write because I already knew about that stuff. You know what I mean? And film is just making it entertaining. You know what I mean? Like that's all it is. Like coming up with an idea or talking about a certain point in time in history, and then making that a small part of something bigger. But then when you look back, it's like, oh, like that was about them. The Tuskegee Experiment. Not knowing who to trust. Ironically, I did this during COVID. This was before COVID. I wrote it. You know what I mean? And then because the Tuskegee Experiment got brought up a lot during COVID. People's mistrust with people in the medical field and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It all kind of tied in. I was like, oh wow. You know what I mean? So that's real though. Like, but yeah, no, it's very important.
It served you as a B plot because clearly he's taking medicine for his anxiety, but there's always this underlying social stigma and distrust with the medical community. So I was like, oh, great. He's using history to tie into this. So, it was dope as an audience member. So I was just curious if that's something that's part of your process.
Yeah. No, it's huge. Like, because it was really like, okay, I know about the Tuskegee Experiment. I want to talk about this. How do I talk about this in a film? Then I started thinking about mental health. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because that's a huge part of it. I was gonna do like a part 2 to this to talk about mental health, racial disparities when when Black men are tried in the court of law and how often they are deemed as mentally unstable versus somebody else. You know what I mean? That was gonna be like a little part 2, but I didn't end up getting to that. But yeah, no, it's really big. It's big, incorporating history into my films, and yeah.
Was there anyone else in the audience who had any other questions? Yes.
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Sure, go.
So I just want to say congratulations. Congratulations on your first.
Appreciate you.
Congratulations on your first LA premiere. Congratulations on your first film in general, first of many for all of y'all. It was something interesting about the Tuskegee scene where we was receiving the information during the toss of the football. And in the beginning of the scene, I was looking at it and I was like, damn, why are they waiting to speak until they get the ball? But then I thought about it artistically. And I was just like, it was something powerful in like the pass of the ball that came with new information. And that was something that was my favorite part of the film. So I don't know who that teacher was, but fuck her. But, I mean, people are going to get it or they're not. I mean, that's just kind of, you know what I'm saying? But there was something very powerful in just like the waiting for like to get receiving new information when you caught the ball, then you gave more information as you threw the ball. So I don't know if that was an artistic thing. But...
Yes, I was on purpose.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah. So that was, I just want to share that. I really like that part. I really love. I feel like as artists and as Black artists, sometimes we have this. There's kind of like this responsibility that we have sometimes to like educate. But I love that you didn't beat us over the head with the education.
Yes, that was the hard part. Trying not to do that. Yes.
And I think that it was a great topic to bring up because we don't, a lot of us don't know about the Tuskegee Airmen and that experiment and all that type of stuff. But I think that, you know, it's always very important to remember that like we, you know what I'm saying, we educate as creatives. You know what I'm saying? And we have that responsibility to educate, which is to entertain first, but to educate second. You know what I'm saying? Because like the brother back there was saying, our history is getting lost. You know what I'm saying? So it takes these projects, it takes these moments to tell it. I think you did a great job, very great job of doing that. So
Appreciate you, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, were there any final questions? Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more of you guys, and then we'll wrap it up. The next thing I wanted to ask of you guys was what brought you all together? What kind of made you collaborate together on making this?
So I was a part of a nonprofit organization called the Black Film Guild in Oakland, and then the CEO of that, hello? Oh no, it's not.
Oh.
The CEO of that told me about Joseph because I was looking for a main actor, and then it kind of just trickled from there. The hardest part was finding a Black female actor. That was like the hardest part. That was really hard. But yeah, that's kind of how it went. Yeah.
Okay.
And then she introduced me to Rayshawn.
Yeah. What about for you guys? You were working with anyone that brought you in contact with him, or just?
It's basically like he said, because it's just me networking and just doing many type of attributes and met another person, met another artist, and she recommended me, and I was already willing. You know, this is something I really wanted to do, and I wasn't doing nothing. It's pandemic, so it was like I was busy, you know? So that's basically how it went there.
Totally. Same thing.
I mean, throughout the lines, Kayshawn. Kayshawn hit me up on Instagram.
Was it Instagram?
I think it was Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think I texted you. He gave me a number.
But he sent me a message and he was like, "Do you want to be a part of my short film? This will be my very first project, and you know, I'm always willing to take it a role and try to work it into my own and try to understand the concept of the character." Also, I just love to just figure out what he wants out of the situation and just try to just dive into it.
Great. And for my final question, I was going to ask what was next for you, but you've actually already answered that. So I'll ask, what would any advice you would have to give be for any aspiring filmmakers in the audience who might want to make a short film or even a feature film of their own?
You just, I would say first you should just do it.